We are now.
All right,
You ready?
we're ready, Mr. President.
Okay, Susan, continue to work with you over there. All right, we'll call the Harrison County Commission meeting for Wednesday, May the 20th to order. If you'll please rise, join me after the invocation into the Pledge of Allegiance. Precious Lord, please give us guidance in this meeting, because of lack of guidance causes the nation to fall, but victory is won through many advisors. Lord, let us not be misguided in this meeting so that we do not lead to decisions that produce ineffective results. I pray that you direct our steps so that this meeting can achieve our kingdom's aims. We place you at the center of this. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, our 10 o'clock hearing has canceled. They desire to appear in person, so that'll be rescheduled at a later date. And Commissioner Treecost had a personal matter that came up this morning. He'll be running behind schedule.
All right, thank you very much. Also, please note that so that I speak a little clearer, I do have my mask, but we're 6 feet apart, so I'm going to proceed without it. Would like to welcome the new city manager, Mr. Falk, from City of Clarksburg. Welcome, Harry. Please let us know if there's any way that we can be of assistance to you as you come about with your new duties for the City of Clarksburg. With that, we'll go to the public comment period, and we do have Jeff Thompson that wants to speak. So, Jeff, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jeff Thompson, and I would bring my concerns up about the county health board and its overzealous enforcement of so-called powers. They need to be put in check. And the way I recommend and make a suggestion is that the county commissioners and the city council of Clarksburg get together, figure out who they want to nominate by policies that you have in place, remove the present 4 individuals and appoint 4 new ones that actually brings in some new blood, some new ideas that doesn't keep following the same stuff that we were having issues with. And that way you can sit there and try to control through votes and work together but as a county and a city, because everything that the board is making decisions on is affecting our businesses and the way we run our lives. And that is unconstitutional at this point, gentlemen. It needs to stop. And I understand that both the city and the county have said, oh, they get their powers from the state. But the bottom line is here that both the city council and the county commission work for us, and hence the county board works for us as being the voters. They do not have all these crazy powers that they're shutting down businesses on. We need to put a check and balance in place. And we need to work together to find a good way to make that happen. You cannot continue as business as usual. There's nothing that they're putting out right now that condones what they're doing. They are hamstringing everything. They're making it next to impossible to run businesses. So we need to do something about that. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any other public comments? Going once, going twice. Thank you very much. On with the regular business. Consent agenda, what's the pleasure?
Move to approve.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Payroll change notices.
We do have one. You have 2 that I've added one, but Ms. Cheryl Ann Hitt is retiring effective at the end of the month, a long-term employee. of our 911 center. And Mr. Copenhaver wrote a letter to the commission thanking her for her service and how valuable employee she has been. The other payroll change notice relates to our animal control facility. Matthew James is submitting his resignation. He is moving out of state to another location.
All right,
Move to accept resignation, move that Mr. Copenhaver's letter be put into Mrs. Hitt's file.
all right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Exonerations, corrective tickets, joint property applications.
We have two.
Move to approve.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Consolidation land, segregation of land.
We have none.
Item 6 is consider for approval of project fund requisition. Is there any on that, Willie?
We do.
Let me read the rest of it then. Requisition for payment of costs associated with project to be financed from proceeds of the Series 2019 bonds issued to the Charles Point Economic Opportunity Development District, Series 2015 A and B, and Series 208A for the North Land Bay improvements.
You have two that were scanned in your packet, Steptoe and Johnson, that total just over $27,000. And then there's three others that we have for the commission to consider. Their muni cap. One is $1,581. The next one is $1,868. And then the last one is $75.
All right.
Just under $4,000 for those three.
Or Stepco invoices directly to us, or will it be paid out?
They'll be paid out. All these are paid out of the bond fund.
Oh, God.
Somebody's not muted.
They are now.
All right, we have a motion to approve, and again, as Commissioner Hinkle indicated, these are paid out of bond funds, not general fund dollars. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, item 7 is to review, discuss, and consider the appointment of Terry Scoville to the Charles Point Economic Enhancement District Board, that's the CED Board, for a term beginning June 1, 2020, and ending May 31st, 2024. What's the pleasure?
Move to approve.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Item 8, review, discuss, and consider the resignation of Robert D. Layton from the Eastview Public Service District as of June 30th, 2020.
Move to accept.
All right, move to accept. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Willie, if you don't mind, do a letter from the county commission thanking him for his public service.
All right, and just for your gentleman's information, whoever fills the vacancy will fill the unexpired term until April the 6th of 2024.
All right. Item 8 is to review and discuss, item 9, to review, discuss, and consider a resolution authorizing the acceptance of the BJA fiscal year 2020 coronavirus emergency supplemental funding program. The amount of dollars is $58,008. Mr. Parker?
This resolution, we applied for the grant, did receive it. This resolution authorizes the acceptance, and then we'll start the process and file for reimbursement of expenditures.
All right. Need signatures?
Need the president's signature.
All right.
Motion to accept. President sign.
All right. All in favor say aye. Aye. Item 10 is to review, discuss, and consider a letter of consent for the West Fork On-Site Community Cooperative Incorporated. Mr. Parker, this is Paul Hamrick's project.
Yes, the commission previously approved a letter of consent. I hadn't drafted it that time. It's been drafted. The president has signed, and I've attached the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers letter report, as it's titled, to that. It'll be completed in 2 phases, and the Army Corps of Engineers report outlines that it's $3,138,333.33 is for the construction part of it. Of that, the federal is 75 and the sponsors 25, and they've outlined the sponsors, you know, where that money is coming from.
All right. Questions? David? All right. Motion to approve.
Motion to make it part of today's record.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Item 11, review, discuss, consider the lease purchase agreement for law enforcement vehicles with Country Road Leasing. Mr. Parker.
In your agenda, the heading is listed wrong. It's, I'll get with, I just noticed that, but it's 3 vehicles that we've received and have paid for, and it's be reimbursing the county commission to $110,000 to $114,000. It is the amount that will be reimbursed through the funding. There's various documents that requires the president's signature. Unless there's questions, I can.
Okay, move to approve with the revision of the heading.
So moved.
Is that correct, Mr. Parker?
Yes.
All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Item 12 is review, discuss, consider any additional personal leave days for courthouse staff. This was brought up by Commissioner Hinkle. Mr. Parker, have you heard from Mr. Treacock?
I did not talk to him about this
David, what's your pleasure?
this morning. I have talked to him previously.
I've reviewed this with Mr. Parker, and I would like to offer up 2 days. And those 2 days have to be used up by, what would we say?
It would be my recommendation by December of 2021.
All right. So that'd be
Basically,
the first.
a year and a half.
All right.
And if, you know, they're not used by that time, it would be similar to our current personal leave day. We have one currently. It's a use it or lose it type situation. So if that would be agreeable to the commission.
All right. So we have a motion on the floor for a 2-day, thanking our county employees during this time. And with that, I know Mr. Treacock had some questions, but I know he would go for 1, I think is what I heard through the grapevine. But 2, I agree with that. So all in favor say aye. Aye. All right. Item 13 is to review, discuss, and consider Harrison County Courthouse operation plan for opening related to the coronavirus pandemic. And Mr. Parker, share with us your thoughts.
I provided a copy earlier, and then I sent out a revised copy last night, because the legislative rule that controlled the square number of individuals per square foot changed and does not apply except to retail businesses. So that's the one change that required changing our overall plan. We were limited under that to 15 individuals in the courthouse, 15 non-staff individuals, and 10 non-staff individuals in the annex. That is no longer in place as it relates to that requirement. We still have a requirement of 6-foot distancing requirements in service areas, lobbies, hallways, throughout the courthouse, public areas. The administrative order of the Supreme Court outlines the requirements for the circuit court, family court, magistrate court, and they are also 6-foot distancing requirements in their courtrooms, hearing rooms, operating, customer service operating areas, whatever you would like to call those. So, excuse me. But as you see on the first page, the overall total, we're talking the courthouse for non-court related functions, non-circuit court related functions.
We have copies of that to go over there.
I can, I didn't make copies, but I can send it out. I will do that. So hold that thought process.
I didn't look at, my attachment.
Trying to look at the attachment, but I couldn't find it.
Rick, your guys' meeting's at 11 o'clock?
Yes.
David, in this plan, do we have the whole security layout and so on for the operation?
Yeah.
That's all part of this? Okay.
As far as I know, it
I just forwarded that to you, Dave.
One there.
That revised one, I forwarded it to your email.
Hold that thought, you get out of here.
But man, swallowed half of it.
All right.
yeah, Brian just said it.
Oh, Brian did? Oh. I don't like to go down to item 10.
dream. Your dream, here for a while.
I'm sorry, I never thought of that.
Hey, we wore ponytails at the same time. I know. I appreciate that.
Patsy, we're on item 13.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr. Parker, if you don't mind, give us the thumbnail.
All right.
Catch up until where you left.
All right. The courthouse non-circuit court related functions, an overall total of 35 individuals, which is, and then there's details of each individual office later on in this report, but maintaining 6-foot distance requirements throughout the facility. The circuit court.
Hold on, before you go any further from the assessor's office. So what you're saying then is that individuals entering the courthouse for assessor purposes, only 35 can come. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying for the assessor, sheriff, tax, and administrative office, county clerk, county commission, prosecuting attorney, circuit clerk, grant department, ID department, probation, and planning department, all of those combined are 35 individuals.
So if I'm coming into the courthouse, I have to identify where I'm going.
Yes, that is on that check-in sheet that we have of where you're going. Yeah, this is not employees, this is non-staff. No, that's fine.
All right.
All right. I arrived at that number by how many can be in each office, and then allowing for some in the lobby areas, in addition to some of the circuit court people being allowed in the lobby areas. The circuit court functions, depending on the number of hearings, you could have another 30 to 35 individuals in the courthouse, in addition to the previous number, just for circuit court related functions. So you could have, 60 to 70 people in the courthouse overall. There are no limits in the number of circuit courts other than the 6-foot distancing. Each court has identified the number of people they can have in their gallery. One circuit court is 18, if I remember right. One of them is 22, and one of them is 10. That's in addition to the staff and witnesses, defendants, or whatever the case may be. These are non-jury trials. Jury trials, the earliest they can start is the end of June, if I remember correctly. How that'll work, I do not know yet. I don't know if they know yet. When I say they, the judges. Because you're supposed to maintain the 6 foot, under the Supreme Court order, the 6 foot distancing in the courtroom also.
Does the Supreme Court override legislative rules before?
Well, since they dropped the square footage requirement, both of them have 6 foot distancing requirements in them.
All right.
The order of the Supreme Court as well as the legislative rule. So they're both in agreement as it relates to that. Since that's been revised, to my knowledge, I see no conflicts in the order of the Supreme Court and the legislative rule at this point. The annex, the voting area, maintaining the 6 foot distancing, Ms. Thomas and Mr. Dale and I reviewed that the other day, and that would be 4 individuals in the voting area and 2 individuals in designated waiting area where that would be, there's a couple of waiting rooms down there that are combination for court hearings, family court, as well as other areas. We cannot have anybody waiting in the hallways. They're not wide enough to have someone waiting in the hallway and then someone exiting the hallway. Service of process is 1 individual or 1 family unit down there. Family court would be operating similar to circuit court, maintaining the 6 foot distancing requirements in their hearing room, which they can do if they space out in the different areas or corners. The family court judges have already looked at that. Magistrate court, they're having a meeting at 11 o'clock. I know Mr. Miller and Ms. Sell will be attending that meeting of how they're going to function. They still are, need to maintain the 6 foot distancing. So therefore, the maximum on the 3rd floor waiting area for the magistrate court will be 6 individuals in their 3rd floor waiting area. They can have nobody waiting on the 2nd floor. They can have, somebody being at their service when they're a service counter, 1 for Magistrate Marble, 1 in the magistrate court clerk's area or family unit, but they cannot have a waiting area for other individuals. Public safety building, 1 individual, 1 family unit coming into the law enforcement, waiting room, animal control, 1 individual, 1 family unit. Parks and Recreation were closed to the public until further notice, so everything there will be by appointment, as well as the WVU Extension Office. Day Report Center is controlled access by appointment. Mr. Hamrick has outlined their procedures to the commission previously, and I think they'll be working fine so far. The secured area of the 911 center is controlled access, of course, just getting into the parking lot as well as the facility, but employees only in the secured area. And the non-secured area for 911 and OEM is still controlled access and entries authorized by management staff. But the courts will be opening up next Tuesday, May the 26th. That's just the court functions. The overall non-court functions, according to the planned draft that I'm recommending, will be Monday, June the 1st. This allows us at least 1 week with court functions that start on the 26th. Early voting starts on the 27th. That allows for some run through without everybody hitting the door at the same time, is the thought process behind that. The public access time has been slid from 8:30 to 9:30. And the judges, circuit court judges, I've talked to Chief Judge Bedell, and they're going to try to adhere to that. Right now, they don't foresee a problem. He will let me know if we see a problem coming up in the future. But this allows at least an hour for our staff to have their screening. So they're going to sign in just like the public, have their temperature taken, and before they report to their office area. So they'll be coming either in the front door or the side entrance at the annex.
So when we open, and when people call and want to know when we're opening?
9:30.
Hours have changed, okay.
Yeah, it's 9:30 for the public access now, assuming this is approved. Then we are open a couple of Saturdays for early voting, May the 30th and June the 2nd. I think those are 9 to 5, if I remember the statute correctly. So we'll have to be open for that. The next page outlines the steps for the public, and then we'll get to the employees after that. But for the courthouse, the plan is to enter via the ramp. So everybody will come up the ramp and into the front door, maintaining at least 6 feet. Must wear a mask before you enter the facility. We're going to have a security personnel outside to help maintain the distancing, as well as if they do not have a mask, a disposable surgical mask will be provided to them. But we're asking that the public show up wearing a mask. If they do not have one can be provided that they can take with them. If they do not want to wear a mask, they'll be denied entrance to the facility. And the service, in the case of early voting, we may have to look at moving the service to them. I don't know how that'll work yet. I don't have that answer. For court hearings, if I remember in the Supreme Court order, the Supreme Court order is requiring masks, within the hearings from people entering and viewing the circuit court or all court functions. But during the check-in, there will be a check-in area at both entrances before the individual gets to the security checkpoint. They'll be asked to fill out a check-in form, which has 6 questions. There's an example in the attachments. I didn't make an example in those copies you have there, but it's name, date, what office they're going to, a temperature reading that we will, our staff will handle, and then 6 questions that they'll, be asked yes or no. Have you been in close contact with or cared for anyone who has been diagnosed with COVID-19 within the last 14 days? Have you traveled in any areas with high COVID-19 concentrations within the last 14 days? Have you been in close contact with anyone who has traveled in any areas with high COVID-19 concentrations within the last 14 days? Have you had a sudden change in your breathing pattern, such as shortness of breath? Have you had a sudden change in your cough status? Have you had a sudden loss of taste? And then there's a signature box that employees and visitors will be completing this form and signing it. And those will be maintained and kept at each facility, courthouse annex, and other facilities, the 911 center, day report, wherever it may be, animal control. So that, depending on the temperature reading, if it's 100.4 right now is the recommendation, or higher, they'll be denied access. Or depending on the answers to that question, they'll be denied access. You cannot deny the constitutional rights of voting or other constitutional rights, but you can move the services or implement additional security measures. Maybe that individual is, escorted by themselves with nobody around, and we sort of shut down voting except for them at that moment. I don't know the answer to that. What's
Where
that?
did you get that information?
What information?
What you just said,
Denying access?
Yeah.
and having to take it to them.
That's me saying that. You either have to implement additional security measures
Okay.
or move the service to them. You cannot just say you can't come in and vote, for example, or require court hearings.
When people start hearing it, we're taking it to them. Not that I'm not opposing that, but
Right.
once that word would get out there.
Yeah, everybody will want that, or many people
We
may.
don't have enough.
We don't have the capabilities.
A bit larger county.
Yeah, we don't have the capabilities to do that. Yeah. And as people come, and as people come in, we're gonna ask them to wait to be called to the table to give us time to wipe it down, disinfect. Then they proceed through screening. They've got a pre-numbered or an access tag. Circuit court or court hearings will have a different color that they'll be issued. Mr. Miller and I have talked about this, about that process. The next item is gonna be interesting. The elevators in the courthouse are restricted to 2 individuals at a time, or 1 family unit if there's 3 or 4 in a family. So 2 individuals on the elevator at a time in the courthouse. In the annex, it's 1 to maintain the distancing requirements. So if, and I've talked to Judge Bedell on this, and Judge McCarthy at least, Judge Matish wasn't in at that time. If somebody has an appointment scheduled wherever at 10 o'clock or 10:30, they may have to show up at 10 o'clock to get through the process. Because you're just not gonna be able to walk in 2 minutes and be upstairs. Time you get through the checkpoint, security, and if you can't or don't want to walk up 4 flights of steps, it may be a while for the elevator to get everybody up, 2 people at a time. So it's,
How many are you gonna have in the stairwell?
well, that's just it. Luckily the stairwells in the courthouse are a little wider than the annex. But
Can we get somebody to run the freight elevator, use it for courthouse employees?
it should be, I don't know how big it is, yeah.
I checked when we were worried about, getting everybody, when one elevator was broke down, they told us that the motor was bad in the elevator, the work elevator. If you used it frequently, it gets overheated, and that's what sets off the alarm.
I'll check and see, we'll see if we can.
But I would have one suggestion, if when the grand jury comes, just they'll sit there having the grand jury. When Commissioner Watson brought up the idea that we would have maybe Hazel or somebody work the elevator, if they all come in like for grand jury time, she can get them up and down faster by operating them manually than having them stand there and push the button. I would only suggest if doing the grand jury, that maybe that could be.
If we have somebody on there, then it's one
You're right.
additional. I mean, it may be good to have whoever a maintenance or whoever at the elevator, okay, next to, and let the grand jury, everybody else waits until they get up. The following section deals with the number of individuals in the customer service areas for each office, and I think I've reviewed these with all, except for Ms. Romano in the prosecuting attorney's office, but it was rather easy based on her setup because, you know, she has a separate waiting room before anybody can enter anyway. But the assessor is one individual or one family unit on each side. So, you know, basically you can have one on each side. Tax office is 4 individuals inside the office service area. And we'll have the decals or markings on the floor throughout the facility to maintain the spacing or give guidance on the spacing. In Ms. Thomas's area, 4 individuals at the service counter, a maximum of 4 individuals in the probate area can space out, 10 individuals in the record room, 2 individuals in the basement record room. The prosecuting attorney is 1 individual or 1 family unit in the waiting area. County commissions, 1 individual, 1 family unit in the office area. Circuit clerk, I think Mr. Albert will be utilizing the table in the lobby area and working from there. But if they're in the office area, it's 1 individual or 1 family unit. You could have 1 in there, and if he has a staff person outside, they could be waiting on somebody else. Grants and IT department is staff only in those office areas. Planning department, addressing and mapping is 1 individual, 1 family unit, and then the circuit court personnel is authorized by the presiding circuit judge and subject to the order. And then once you've completed in the courthouse, you exit out the exit in the front door, drop the access tag in the container. We'll disinfect, sanitize those in the evening time, have maintenance do that. Exit down the front steps to the right. If they have mobility issues, they will have to go down the ramp. And if they need to go to the annex, we're asking that they exit the courthouse and go around to the 3rd Street entrance for the public. The plan is not to have any public traffic between the 2 buildings via the connecting hallway because of the spacing requirements and knowing how many is in the building. The annex individuals will enter the 3rd Street entrance. 6 feet distancing. Again, mask must be worn to gain entrance to the facility. The check-in procedure is the same. And then through security, they'll have the access tag or the court tag, whatever the case may be. It's like I said, the number of individuals on the elevator in the annex is 1 or 1 family unit. So it's going to take some scheduling for magistrate court hearings, of 1 at a time, unless they use the steps. And they'll be meeting at 11 o'clock. We're going to try to take a look at establishing a one-way traffic much as possible in the annex to exit out the Washington Street exit. unless you have mobility issues, then you have to exit out the front door of the courthouse. So we'll have an individual at the back door, an administrative individual contacting security in the entrance to let people know who's what, how many's left, and where they were from. So we'll have that communication between them. Voting, as I said, begins the 27th, the 2 Saturdays, 4 individuals, 2 in the waiting area. On the Saturdays, we can't have 10 individuals in those family court waiting rooms, enough 5 in each one. If people wouldn't have to wait outside, if, you know, at that point. And I've attached the orders and such from the Secretary of State and the attachments, but the service, the process is 1 family court area. Again, it's as authorized by the presiding family court judge, subject to the administrative order of the Supreme Court. Magistrate court hearings are the same as the presiding magistrate. You know, I don't see any way there's 5 magistrates that can be having 5 hearings. There's just no way to accomplish that. So, and I don't think all 4 or all 5 are on duty at times. I think someone's on call, and so I'm not sure, but they'll be looking at that at 11 o'clock today. And again, I've outlined how many in their waiting areas and such. For security, staging, and control room, we'll continue the current practices unless the sheriff and commission think in the future if there's any changes needed, but they've been working out fairly well. But exiting Washington Street, if at all possible. If not, then you may have to exit via, you know, the front door of the courthouse. The next section deals with the officials and staff.
Well, before you go any further, on the 3rd Street side, has there been any thought giving, building a temporary ramp for those who are physically disabled so that you don't have to come through the front door and then walk them from one building to the other building?
Might
check with Greg.
We'll check with Greg. We probably have got, I think we've got enough room and enough slope to accomplish that.
That might not be bad.
Yeah, because I don't think you'll have to have a switchback necessarily. You probably could have a slope and still meet the ADA requirements. So we'll take a look at that.
All right.
Next area deals with officials and staff. You know, the first section is public that we just went over. For the courthouse annex and garage parking area. For the courthouse and annex, the employees will enter just like the public, go through the employee, you know, sign in, check in process. That's the reason for the 8:30 to 9:30 to allow sufficient time to get that accomplished with the public access at 9:30. The garage area, the officials and staff that are in the garage area will do their and check in and screening with the individual on duty at that location. And if any employees denied access, they're to contact the appropriate constitutional official and the county commission office. Some, you know, there may, employees must wear a mask before entering the facility. Officials and staff wearing a mask or a face cover before they come in. When they're traveling in common areas, lobbies, hallways, any place outside their individual private 6-foot work area. I know we've had some employees and we haven't enforced mask at this point, but we've had employees within that 6-foot or less working area, sitting at a table, one here, and one here. every employee should have a mask on at that point, without exception. And once they get to their constitutional areas within their individual offices, that's going to be a decision of the constitutional official. I have received from the prosecuting attorney and the circuit clerk what they've outlined for their staff, and which will become a part of this once I get from all constitutional officials a part of this plan. When you're waiting on customers or clients at the counter or service areas, wherever that may be, staff members must be wearing a mask. And we have the same, requirements on the elevators. If 4 people from whatever office come into the courthouse together, it's 2 at a time, or the stairs to get up. And if somebody's, for example, if I'm on the elevator when coming up from the basement and there's 2 on the first floor, 1 can get on, 1 waits. I know that's inconvenient, and we haven't been doing that currently, but we should be doing that. Public safety building, law enforcement, the garage, again, similar outline. 911 facility and OEM facility, again, similar. Of course, with 24-hour operations, the check-in procedure may be a little bit different. The on-duty supervisor doing that or handling that and providing that. I've asked all the remote locations, such as 911, the public safety building, Parks and Recreation, Animal Control Day Report, whatever the case may be, Extension Service, to scan and fax those check-in sheets to the commission office each day, so we have a list for all locations available. Parks and Recreation, again, is closed to the public until further notice. Visit, by appointment only, but the check-in is the same. Animal Control is restricting access to the public, 1 individual or 1 family unit. Again, the same procedures for check-in and wearing of masks. The Extension Office has been closed to the public, and by appointment only, they've been working remotely. Day Report, I went over that earlier. Probation Department, Mr. Burnside sent through an email, and I did not see any problems with it, where they could operate after normal operating hours at the back Washington Street exit, as they're doing now, like from just after 4:30 when people get out until 7 or 7:30, which should work well for them and us. Maintenance Department, I'm going to be working with Mr. Dale on at least 2 individuals in the courthouse annex, cleaning on a continuous rotating basis, and if we need to kick that up, we will, and developing a schedule for sanitizing, cleaning office areas, after hours. Item 10 is other items and requirements. I've asked the constitutional officials for an overall staffing plan. The prosecuting attorney's office included that in the other documents she provided. I think Albert is working on that, I do believe, but working remotely under this plan still authorized, and for example, in the prosecuting attorney's office, she's splitting her staff where there'll be at least a skeleton crew not in the facility for a 2-week time period, for a continuous 2-week time period. So if her whole staff was exposed that are here, she would still have available staff that could function and carry out the required to the best of their abilities at that point. So splitting a staff is still authorized between the office and working remotely. If you're working remotely, we need a written list of duties performed. I know the assessor, Rocky, has been providing a weekly report of what people have been doing Ms. Romano in the prosecutor's office provided that list, and each employee signed off on that before they even started working remotely. So if you have working remotely employees that are working remotely, we need a list of duties that are performed, that they've been, performed. This draft restricts or eliminates the restrictive on-call status that we had in place for some, or for all offices that were utilized by some offices. A restrictive on-call status requires payment of compensation, restrict an employee's movements to where they cannot, if you have to answer within a certain time period that, 15 minutes or whatever the case may be. Now, if you're on call and if Mr. Hayes is on call and Brian, you need to respond within 4 hours, that's not a restrictive on-call status. But if he's on call and Brian, you need to respond in 15 minutes, then that's a restrictive on-call status, must be paid. And so this draft eliminates that. You can still work remotely with assigned job duties, no problem there at all. Item B was much discussion was had with the prosecuting attorney and other individuals on this. And Rachel's on there if she has comments she desires to make, but I'll try to outline. She has some concerns with this area. I'll let you know that up front. I did reword this from what I sent out previously, and I'll read it because not everybody will have a copy. But officials do not desire nor will any official restrict any staff member's travel plans. The right to travel is an extremely well-documented constitutional right. However, in an effort to provide safeguards for the health and welfare of our coworkers and the public we serve, prior to any out-of-state travel, all staff members are being advised to inform their supervising constitutional official or department head of any such travel. In an emergency situation, please contact your supervising constitutional official or department head as soon as possible. Staff members should provide any available COVID-19 statistics for the designation area of their travel. Staff members will provide the method of travel to their destination area. Any staff member willingly, knowingly, and intentionally fails to disclose information in an effort to conceal possible COVID-19 exposure may be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment. Based upon the review of the supervising constitutional official and in consultation with the Office of the County Commission, a staff member may be required to self-quarantine for up to 14 days before returning to work. If available within the established regulations and/or policies, appropriate paid leave may be utilized. If no authorized and/or established paid leave is available, a staff member will not receive compensation for this time frame.
Let me ask you a question, Mr. Parker, on that. Didn't the governor yesterday withdrew the out-of-state travel where he permitted that? Wasn't that part of his press release yesterday? And are we looking at, is the CDC regulations or?
The out-of-state travel, the governor was talking about, I think, as it related to business.
I think he listed that or something, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it related to business travel, authorized travel.
That's still out of state, right?
Yeah.
Out of state is out of state.
Yeah, you can control business travel. The County Commission and constitutional officials can, this is not business travel. This is, I'll pick on myself. Willie wants to go to Virginia Beach to visit his granddaughter, daughter, and son-in-law. Under this procedure, I would let you know that I'm going, provide any statistics that I had, and then if I did not provide that, or, I'm driving my car down there, I'm not flying, not taking a bus, or a slow boat around the Horn of Africa, whatever the case may be, If I willingly, knowing, and intentionally fail to disclose any information to conceal any possible exposure, then I could face disciplinary action.
What if we tell you, sorry, Willie, you can't go visit your granddaughter?
You cannot do that. That is unconstitutional.
So all I have to do is tell you I'm gone, and you can't stop me?
You cannot stop individuals from going. The intent is not to restrict travel, not stop anybody from going at all. The intent is if there is a situation, you know, for example, I'll pick on Willie. If I want to take the greatest Midwest tour of all meat packing facilities in the Midwest, you know, that's probably not a wise decision, but that's my decision. If I want to take
Constitutional right.
yes, if I want to take 2 weeks of vacation to do that. Now, you have the right to say, Willie, we understand you've been in the meat packing touring facilities, and nothing beats a good barbecue. And therefore, you have to self-quarantine for up to 14 days. You know,
You get paid for it?
depends on whether there's available leave. Yes, there is emergency paid sick leave under the CARES Act, if you're self-quarantined, of up to 14 days if you haven't already used that. We've had individuals already that have utilized that emergency paid sick leave.
Now, somebody can work remotely, and they're good to work remotely.
You can work remotely too, yeah. And you cannot require them to use sick leave or vacation if you come back and self-quarantine, before they're eligible for that emergency paid sick leave. So, there's 14 days available there. But I know there was some staff members that had some concern, there were some constitutional officials that had some concern, so I tried to massage the language, so to speak. It is not restricting travel at all. Cannot do that. As an employer, cannot do that. It's the seeking the information is protecting the health and safety of other coworkers and the public that they serve.
Let me ask you a question. Somebody is going to California.
Okay?
So they tell their supervisor, hey, I'm going to California. And then they come back, do they have to self-quarantine for 14 days?
They don't necessarily have to, no. If, if they went to Death Valley and there's no one in Death Valley but them, and they drove out there, drove back, their own little vehicle, it depends on the situations. Now, if they were in an airplane packed with 300 people, maybe a different story. That's the reason for the mode of travel request. And it's not, I know the president drives these motorcycle on trips. It's not for the Saturday motorcycle ride and suddenly you're in Belpre, Ohio, fueling up. That's not the intent of this policy at all.
Who do I tell?
That's between you and your supervising wife.
Right there. Thank you. Okay, we could beat that to death. I don't have any other questions on that.
I tried to make it, clear as possible that we're not restricting travel, but we do, as an employer, at least as joint employers, in place of constitutional officials, requesting the information. Just say you may be challenged on this if there was any disciplinary action taken as a result of this policy. There is you can be challenged for anything really, but there is that possibility. If you feel that, unless there's other questions there, if you feel ill, protect your constitutional official or department head, stay home or go home. If you do have a positive result for yourself or anybody residing with or in contact with you, to, report that. Deliveries at the front door of the courthouse, personal deliveries should not be sent to the work location. And then the closing, and I'll read it for the individuals who don't have a copy. All Harrison County officials and administrative supervisors understand the need for limited governmental controls, regulations, and directives. However, just as we must adhere to certain traffic laws, wearing of seat belts, wearing of motorcycle helmets, utilizing approved car seats for our children or grandchildren, and a host of other items in our everyday functions, these requirements are in place to provide for the health and safety of all individuals. In an effort to provide for the utmost safety and welfare of the public and staff members, these procedures may be changed, modified, and or adjusted by the Harrison County Commission during any regular, special, and or emergency meetings. Appreciate your understanding and cooperation during these unusual times and circumstances for our world. Signatures by 3 commissioners.
The other questions I would have, I'm assuming this document, if we approve it today, is still a working document?
It can be modified at any time as the situation arrives.
And my other question would be, did we work with other counties to try to have some consistency among our 55 counties as we put a plan together?
I did look at other counties that had shared their plans. Many of them had restrictions based on the 2 per 1,000 square feet, which changed Friday night.
That's
later.
Legislative rules.
That's the legislative rule that changed. So I have not seen many revisions since then.
So we might be a leader and ours may be used as a model.
Possibly so.
All right. Comments? Patsy? David?
There's no consequence. I don't wanna wear mine, I'm coming in, what's the consequence?
Your mask,
Yeah.
public or employee,
Fully,
you're not getting into the facility, you're denied entry.
okay, I'm not entry, but I'm in the building and I leave the office, go down the hallway, go visit people and don't wear a mask, what's the consequence?
According to this policy, all employees must wear a mask in the common areas. It's any other procedure that has been violated, a constitutional official and county commission as joint employers, I think, would have, as any other policy or procedure that's violated, Me as the county administrator, the commission
Am I
could,
getting a day off, get 2 days off? If I
You're
come
given
to work
2
in the
days off already.
morning,
You could.
Come in, you give me the mask,
And
I go up, go to work, I leave the mask, come back down, go outside, get a mask, come back in.
That should fall
on
under the
Smoke.
coordination thing, the county.
yeah, I
You
mean,
make them wear a mask, that's my question.
yes. Your employees? Yes.
You
That's
You
say,
can tell me that I have to make my employees wear a mask.
Yes.
What gives you that right?
We're joint employers with
What gives you the right to say that my employees have to wear a mask?
the public and safety of the facility and the public we serve.
Is that just a Willie just come up with?
No, I mean, that's my
I
opinion.
mean, I'm not trying to.
Yeah, that's my opinion, yes. Now, if there's somebody out there that would disagree with that,
Like, you're gonna have somebody that's gonna disagree, I'm sure.
well, it would be the constitutional official that would have to disagree. If an employee disagrees,
I don't necessarily agree,
if,
but I'd like to find out.
I don't know why we would not require masks for the employees in the hallway.
Like I said, I'm not saying I oppose it.
Yeah.
So I just wanna make sure we're covered legally.
And Rachel's on there.
There we go.
Rachel, what's your comment there? Did you hear the discussion?
I couldn't hear everything Susan was saying. I could hear it was Susan, but I just couldn't hear everything she said.
The question is disagreement for an employee and constitutional official. I'll pick on you since I'm talking to you. If you say my employees do not need to wear a mask in the hallways, lobbies, common areas, elevators, not talking about the private work areas of your employees in your office. My opinion is we're joint employers. When I say we, the county commission is joint employers with the constitutional officials. And the county commission is the controlling entity for the courthouse operations of all common areas, whatever they may be. And Rachel says, no, my employees are not going to wear a mask no matter what. And we're saying, as the county commission, thank you, Ms. Romano, your employees are not coming through the front door.
Okay. Are we talking
Not
in
to put you on the
pure,
spot.
well, I mean, if we're talking in pure hypotheticals, I mean, why don't we wait and cross that bridge if we have to before we even try to? I don't know the answer right here off the cuff. So, I mean, if we know that there's a certain employee out there that's already saying, no, I'm not going to wear a mask, then yeah, I mean, we'll look into it. I mean, immediately.
Well, I know we have employees not wearing masks right now, but we have not implemented this per se, but other than, you know, the CDC, health department, everybody's encouraging masks at this point. This policy or procedure requires it.
I don't see an issue with it if they want in the building, because you can deny access to somebody in the courthouse for multiple reasons. That could be one of them. Now, if they're coming in to fulfill a constitutional right, such as voting, we're going to have some issues if we're denying access. And I know you've kind of addressed that a little bit. Otherwise, I think that it can be a mandate and they can be denied access. And I think you can mandate the employees in your spaces. I mean, that's an off-the-cuff answer. I mean, it's the same as we deny them their, you know, I mean, this is a far-fetched example, but you have a constitutional right to carry a firearm. We don't allow you to carry your firearm in the courthouse. You know, there's
Right.
rules that can be bent for specific reasons. So I don't see a problem with the requirement of the mask unless we are interfering with their constitutional right to vote, which is coming up soon.
Yeah, and on that area, you know, there's a couple of things I think we can, you know, take a look at doing. Is if, you know, John Q or Susie Q public, I'm not wearing a mask to vote and I want to vote. Okay, we shut down everybody in voting, wait for that to clear out, they go in by themselves, you know, to vote.
Mhm.
That would be additional security measures that I've mentioned here.
Mhm.
Or if we have the capabilities and the staff, you can provide the service to them. You know, similar to somebody that cannot make it into the facility to vote and can vote in their vehicle.
Right. I mean, yes, I mean, we would have to do everything we could to accommodate an individual in that situation. As for requiring employees of the courthouse, you know, the constitutional officials employees, which are joint employees with the commission, you know, it's something that probably we could look through case law over and over. We have never addressed this situation in the last 100 years, but given that it's for the greater public good, public policy, I think it would be upheld in a court if somebody would challenge us on that. But it's a novel area, so I can't give you a guarantee.
That was my thinking also, yes. I mean, similar to the firearms or, you know, restaurants, no shirt, no shoes, no service.
Yeah, and it's very limited what we're asking for in regards to the mask, especially if we are going, did I hear you say that we have some to provide for people so that they can get in?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, it's a very tailored and limited requirement that affects the greater good, public policy, public safety. I think it would be upheld if challenged.
Thank you.
Okay.
I still don't think I have my answer.
Well, you know,
If Jessica leaves out of here with a mask to go over to see bookkeeping, and it's in the hallway without the mask, what's the consequence?
that would be covered under our employee personnel policy of disciplinary procedures of, insubordination and such,
Conduct
of what the constitutional, is it the first time Ms. Zell has done that? Or, out in the hallway or stop by coming, wherever, or is that the 15th time today that Ms. Zell's done that? That would be under our employee handbook policies and procedures, that just as any other policy is the disciplinary action.
Don't say that in.
I can add that. I can add that phrasing somewhere in here for,
Now I'm down in Rocky's office, and there's 4 people in there, but somebody comes out into the hallway, down and comes into his office.
They're gonna forget.
Without a mask. If that's a violation of his policy.
let me try that again.
I leave my office without a mask, and walk into Ron's office without a mask, have I violated policy?
If you're going to other people's areas, depending on the constitutional official, I know in Rachel's case, or Ms. Romano's case, excuse me, she's requiring once they leave their individual office area, to wear a mask going down the hallway, visiting other locations in the office, communicate by telephone as much as possible. This policy does not say, if Rocky has someone in real property, Patty Shiflett goes back to visit another. If it's not out in the commons area, this policy is not requiring that. That's the decision of the constitutional official.
David's case, his scenario there, it would be all right.
It's if the commission requires, you being the constitutional official,
That,
Willie, every time you step over the threshold of your office,
right.
we want a mask
But
on your
because
face.
of our area here, that is not a common area.
Yeah. Now, if Commissioner Hinkle goes down to the assessor's office, should have a mask on that whole way.
I got a little email here, or a little text, that says there are many businesses that require masks for safety, especially in the manufacturing industry. So I'm still sort of like Susan and David, what's the consequences?
Well,
You're already in the building.
I'll put, the consequences for employees is they're subject to the disciplinary procedures as outlined in our employee personnel handbook.
And at-will employees, I'm assuming you're an at-will employee, so it could be up.
Everybody here except for certain law enforcement individuals are at will.
Do you allow a time or two, because obviously something.
You're gonna forget, yeah. I mean, it'll be handled.
Blatantly
I mean,
doing it and doesn't just, hey,
Yeah,
I'm not
I
gonna
mean,
do this.
our starting time for our staff is 8:30. Now, I'll pick on Brian, he's at the end of the table. Brian's here at 8:30 every day for a year. And suddenly he's here at 8:40 one day. And we're not gonna, oh, break Brian, you're fired, no. Or we shouldn't, I'm not saying. But, it's, now if Brian's 8:40 every day for 10 weeks, Brian's got an issue. Same way with the mask.
The other thing I don't see addressed is the smoke.
Smoking, is that what you said, David?
Don't see anything for smoking.
They'll have to have a mask in and out. Now,
Where are you coming up the ramp, I'm taking the steps are closed?
well, Albert asked me that question, as a matter of fact, and I forgot I don't know how we handle that.
Then are we gonna supply them masks if every time they come in and out, if they mess their mask up while they're out smoking?
If we require an employee to wear a mask, we would be required to provide one, yes. Now, I don't know how you handle that if there's, because Albert asked me that question, how you handle the smokers of the various offices. And someone's in line been waiting there for a half hour, and they see someone jump the line, so to speak.
Not only smokers, but lunch break people.
Yeah,
who
lunch.
go Lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah, are they allowed to come up the steps and come in rather than wait on the ramp?
Yeah, assuming no one's exiting this is just Willie at this point. No one's exiting the steps, you still need to maintain the 6 feet distance. Could be. I mean, and that's.
I shouldn't even,
You already said.
There's no good, easy answer to
no,
that.
it's not, that's, I mean, if we could sit here all day.
Yeah, I think, again, I think we would expect our employees to make sure no one's exiting the facility, maintain 6 feet distance if someone's entering the facility, and not get right up on them, behind them, shove them out of the way, whatever the case may be. You know, not, the intent is they would not have to go through the sign-in process again. You know, the employee or official, once I've done the garage that day, I'm done for the day as an employee. If I have to travel out to a facility for whatever reason, go to day report or 911 and come back, then I would not go through the screening process again.
I can come back, feeling, go ahead, a temperature.
You could, yes.
I mean, you have bank deposits daily,
Yeah.
things like that, just going for a few minutes. Lunch, is, I'm in and out delivering, remote work to people at home.
All right, what else?
I'd like to ask a request. I see Robert's on. I have not talked to him about this, but I think he would agree. The assessor's office and the sheriff's tax office, when you do your press release, I think we would like you to include in there to tell people call our offices, because we still are able to take care of everything they need remotely. They do not have to come in here.
Yeah,
So
and,
we're open.
yeah, that's one of the things the second paragraph, the first I'll read the first two. It says, the purpose and objective of this plan is to provide for the safety and welfare of all citizens during their necessary visits to the Harrison County Courthouse while striving to maximize the safety and health of officials and staff members providing services. The next paragraph tries to address that. All officials encourage the public to limit visits to the Harrison County Courthouse and other county owned facilities for functions that are only absolute necessary and must be completed in person. All citizens are reminded that many services or functions may be conducted by telephone, online, mail, and/or established drop-off locations that do not require face-to-face contact. So we've talked about still maintaining the drop box for taxes out in the lobby area. We're going to be shutting the revolving door down. They'll be entering just that one side entrance there. So we'll have the drop box right there at the revolving door location.
When is that going to start? I'm thinking about it, these people want to deliver ballots.
We've locked that door as of yesterday, the revolving door. Now, this screening process,
No, not that, but I mean, as far as the drop box for taxes.
oh, that's in place right now. Yeah,
Step in the door, put it in, and then they step out.
yeah, it's
The drop box? No.
in
Carry it in.
in the,
Those that don't want to mail.
it's the lobby area before the screening right now, but since we're gonna have, that's where we're gonna be doing the check-in, we're going to, and we can put a drop box there for ballots. We're gonna put those there and chain them to that revolving door so they don't get legs and walk during the day and then at nighttime.
That's what, I tried to get mailboxes.
Okay. But that's how we're gonna do taxes. I talked to the sheriff yesterday on that, and he was in agreement with that, to help maintain, reduce the flow of traffic.
Motion to approve.
All right, so we have a motion to approve any,
I'll add that employee handbook reference.
all right, with the, stipulations, David?
Yep.
Patsy, any comments? We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, just remember that it continues to be a work in progress. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, last item, item 14 is review, discuss, and consider regular meeting schedule of the county commission. Mr. Commissioner Hinkle.
A couple items. I'd like first to think about going back to every Wednesday if possible. But also I would like to make that Zoom become a part of every meeting. And I think this allows for more public to be part of our meetings, the way we've been doing these, and I don't want to see us stop it. I think it's good for our citizens to be able to log in and see what we're doing. So that's two things I'd like to talk about, is whether or not we can
All right.
continue Zoom, and whether or not we could look at going every Wednesday. So that's up for discussion.
All right, let's start with the Zoom. Patsy, you have any issues with the Zoom? Nor do I. Mr. Parker, is there any issues that we may have by allowing the public to be able to view their county commission and their government in action?
No, I mean, I think it's working well, as can be expected, and even if, as we get to more normal times, it provides for a recording of the meetings. We're recording the Zoom, and you know, even for the day, you know, we can, once we're open to the public, still for the numbers we have here, you can only get 2, maybe more people in here.
Right.
And maintain the distance, required distances, unless, you know, now one thing, if we, like for the hearing that was canceled, you know, it's my opinion, they would have a right to an in-person hearing. You know, just as, because it's a quasi judicial function. And, you know, so we may have to restrict other access during that hearing process. We may have to tell Mr. Assessor, Mr. Circuit Clerk, Mr. IT, and Mr. IT, go.
Yeah. All right. All right.
You still will have to control the numbers.
All right. So with that, David, I'm assuming that's a motion?
Yes.
Patsy, any concern? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, the other issue is, you said you would like for us to have some discussions with regard to the meeting times. I know Patsy has got a different job now, but he still may be restricted. You all right? How about you?
No, I'm good.
All right. So, Mr. Parker, what's your motion, David?
And if we're all agreeable, back to every Wednesday afternoon.
That'd be fine. Afternoon would even be better.
Well, I mean, Wednesday morning.
However you guys want. With that,
I just want to make sure I caught that right.
there we go.
You want to have one evening meeting every month?
I don't know if we need to, if we're doing Zoom. I mean, we could think
All right.
about it, but I mean,
No, that doesn't matter.
We can always change it. All right, so, we'll go back to, Wednesday meeting. That will help out with a lot of the administrative stuff.
Do you want to effective immediately, July 1st, or when do you want to make that? Doesn't matter to me.
Nor me.
just like it July.
Okay.
July. So effective the first meeting in July, the first Wednesday.
Effective July of 2020, will return, as I understand the motion, return
Okay.
to weekly meetings at 10 a.m. Wednesdays.
July 1 is a Wednesday.
It's the first
It's
meeting.
read on my calendar
Yes.
for some reason. All right.
We're going out of town.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, all in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right. Anything else? Commissioners' comments? Patsy?
Just very comfortably about it, ask him at the, next meeting, the first meeting in June, to give us an update on Coons Run. We've got to figure out what's going on there. And if you could, we had done it one other time, and had to set, had a date guideline, perhaps of all. just revisit that and get us the guideline again, and then send it to us, and revisit that the first meeting, and then the first meeting in June, please give me an update on the
Oh,
progress,
that's the PFD? Yeah.
and progress on the new group at the, sheriff's building.
Okay, we did meet with Thrasher yesterday. When I say we, Mr. Dale and I met with Craig with Thrasher. They expect, you know, to be able to be out the bids based just on that brief discussion yesterday while I was there. He and Mr. Dale made more of a tour, out the bids in 30 to 45 days and have it under, assuming, you know, the commission would approve the bids, to proceed then this summer with adding and replacing the roof.
And from this point on, until we get that baby started, just give me an update every week.
Okay.
1 second update.
We can do that.
All right. Any comments, David?
Kind of following on Patsy on public safety building, I'd kind of like to see a new facade on the front of that place. And have that looked at, clean that front of that building up to make it look like it was what it stood for, the sheriff's department, public safety, I think needs some overall.
You're talking about the facade?
Yeah, the whole front end of that building just
All right.
needs something.
Mr. Parker, put it on your list.
See what we can do.
Anything else, David?
I've got a curveball I can throw, but Parker might yell at me.
Well, you threw a fast pitch here a while back, and he didn't get his bat off the shoulder, so.
This next meeting, we need to discuss some real estate.
All right.
If you wouldn't mind, just send me an email for an agenda item if we have any specific locations or parcels.
All right.
Motion adjourned.
And if we require masks, then we are obligated to provide masks. Is that correct?
That's correct.
How long did you wear what you had on?
I think this is a day or a few hours.
What happens if you take it off, you have to put another one on?
No, I've been using this one all the
I
time.
wash mine, Susan, the bandana here.
Yeah, these are washable here.
I think this can be sanitized if you've used it and try again, but.
All right. Anything else? Going once, going twice. Need a motion to adjourn? All in favor, say aye. All right, thank everybody for attending. See you, next, meeting.
Well, let's shut down and record and end our that's one thing you gentlemen need to be aware of when we're on Zoom until we're